So the question is to ask yourselves, have you ever been controlled? And how did it make you feel? Now, the impact on the parent-teen relationship, if we look at on a scale of 0 to 10, what is the impact of these controlling behaviors? Of whether you're doing it a lot. I've had parents who've told me, I get the black belt, I do them all.
Right.
The impact from on a scale of 0 to 10, the relationship is deteriorating. It's weakened. Your relationship with your teen is harmed. You get disconnected, and eventually you could get destroyed, depending upon how much controlling is going on.
Welcome back to another episode in this series of Building a Relationship with One's Child. After focusing on the basics and the practical components, we move on to discuss intervention. What happens when it's not working? We've tried. We don't have a great relationship. We're really trying. What do? We have the great pleasure to talk to Mrs. Devorah Weiss, a social worker and a certified parent and teen coach who mostly works with parents of challenging teens. She really is a wealth of knowledge, and she has so much useful information that can help parents on their parenting journey. I'm so excited to share this with you. Parents are often unaware that their behaviors are controlling and have very bad impact on their children. All parents should ask themselves if their behaviors put them closer to their children or farther away. Is it better to be right or to be connected? What is the true role of the parent? Ms. Devorah Weiss is here to answer all of these and many more questions and to teach us how to repair broken relationships and establish meaningful, loving relationships with our kids. Without further ado, enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of The Jews Next Door. It is our pleasure to be talking today to Mrs. Devorah Weiss. Mrs. Weiss is a licensed social worker. She was in Chinuch for the first 29 years of her career, and she's a certified parent and teen coach who works with parents of challenging teens and gives workshops based on an approach that she learned. And she's located in Israel. And I will post her, all of her information after you hear all of her words of wisdom. I'm sure you will want to reach out and learn more from her and speak to her. I'll post all of her information in the show notes. And without further ado, thank you so much, Mrs. Weiss, for taking the time today to speak to us. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure meeting you and speaking to you. And I hope that this will be useful information for everybody in their parenting journey.
I have no doubt. So, we're in this topic right now of creating a relationship, building a relationship with one's child. And, we've in our podcast series, we've already spoken about, the basics. We've spoken about how to practically do it. And now we're kind of looking to some intervention. What does one do when one has tried all the different ways to build a relationship with their child and it just doesn't seem to be working? What would you say from your experience, from all of in your workshops and everything, in your whole methodology, what do you attribute that to?
So, good question. I'll answer it in a little bit of a roundabout way. The first thing that I share with parents when they call me for an Eitzah is to define what is control. And after we finish this whole conversation about control, because nobody likes to be labeled, I'm controlling, or be told that you're controlling, but I don't think everybody really understands what does control mean, and I'd like to define that. So, and again, I'm talking about relationships from bar bat mitzvah age and up. I'm not talking about younger kids. So control is trying to get someone like your teen, and this could also be a spouse or with an employer, boss and employee, trying to get somebody to do what you want them to do. That's your kavanah. Or trying to get somebody to be how you want them to be. In other words, you're trying to get someone to change. You're not happy with the way they are right now, and you would like them to be different. So the question is, how do parents control? What are controlling behaviors? What are parents doing, or anyone doing, that might be under this umbrella of control? So I'm going to list a bunch of behaviors and as anyone is listening, you can think to yourself and put like a little check mark in your mind if you do these behaviors, and then we'll explain. Criticizing, blaming, nagging, bribing. If you do this, I'll do that. Lecturing, giving a lot of mussar. Sarcasm. One mother once said to me, "Oh, I don't do any of these behaviors." I say, "Okay." But she said, "Yeah, when my daughter walks into the room with a very long skirt that's touching the ground, I say to her, 'Oh, Hanala, you sweeping the floor again?' That's sarcasm." Punishing.
Right.
And punishing and consequences, when they're not natural consequences, when it's a consequence that the parent is imposing, is no different than a punishment. So punishing, complaining about the room, complaining that they're late, complaining that they didn't daven, whatever it might be. Threatening. If you don't, I will do this to you. Confronting. Confronting usually begins with why. Why did you do this? Attacking. An example of attacking might be a parent who got an email late at night that her child, her teenager, didn't do 4 homeworks. And in the morning, she runs into the kid's room, practically jumps on his bed, shakes him awake, and says, "Why didn't you do your homework? You're missing 4 homeworks. What's going on?" That's attacking your kid. Or forcing them to do something. Or yelling.
Right.
Screaming, or even the silent treatment. So the question is, what's wrong with these behaviors, right? We think that these behaviors are okay, or at least I used to think that they were okay, because that's what most, quote, good parents and teachers do, or at least that's what our common sense tells us. Everyone does them. Most of us grew up in an external control psychology world. And we say, well, it's common sense.
Right.
Common sense is believing so strongly that something is true that it never questions our mind, crosses our mind to question this belief. So the answer is, what's wrong with these behaviors is how it makes the other person feel. And if you or anybody else who's listening thinks to themselves, were they ever controlled by whomever, growing up, in a marriage, in a work situation? How did it make you feel? Speaking specifically of a teenager, they feel any of these feelings: hate, misery, resentfulness, unhappiness. They have feelings of terrible pain, anger, sadness, bitterness, feelings of resistance, feeling desperate, wanting to retaliate. And it leads to power struggles and revenge.
It makes sense that this is specifically with teens also, because teens are, coming to that juncture in life where they're starting to break away and starting to form their own independence. So they're like, why are you controlling me? Why are you nagging me? Why are you punishing me and criticizing me and attacking me and all these things?
And if they're already a teen at risk or a teen in pain, this is just adding to their discomfort, to their pain. So the question is to ask yourselves, have you ever been controlled? And how did it make you feel? Now, the impact on the parent-teen relationship, if we look at on a scale of 0 to 10, what is the impact of these controlling behaviors? Of whether you're doing it a lot. I've had parents who have told me, I get the black belt, I do them all. The impact on a scale of 0 to 10, the relationship is deteriorating. It's weakened. Your relationship with your teen is harmed. You get disconnected, and eventually you could get destroyed, depending upon how much controlling is going on. Because that's what external control does. It destroys relationship. And we become disconnected from the people, from the kids that we want to be connected with. So a thought that I still have in the back of my mind whenever I speak to my adult children is what you're about to say or do going to bring you closer or push you farther away? And that's really a cloud double. Is what you're about to say or do going to bring you closer or push you farther away from this kid?
Right. I remember in the beginning of my marriage, someone once said that, I think my wife heard that in like a shiur or something. She was saying like, anything you do with like, in terms of like any relationship you have, especially, spouse or especially children, every interaction you have could go one of two ways. It could either get you closer or it could push you farther away. It's not like there's not that much of like a neutral, exactly. Which is like, I think what
but
sounds like what you're saying.
Any of these behaviors, which I'll put under the umbrella of control, push the kid further away, right? So the next question is it better to be right or to be connected? And P.S. parents are usually right. However, being right at what cost to the relationship?
Well, so I want to slow down a little bit because we just listed like so many things. We spoke about criticizing, blaming, nagging, bribing, lecturing, sarcasm, attacking, confronting, threatening, all these different things. A lot of these things, or, maybe we can go one at a time, but not through all of them. Some of these things seem, from an outset just seem like, well, but that's natural. We are supposed to give punishments. And as you said before, well, not if they're not natural, but so how does one replace that? Well, meaning how do we have to, what is our role as a parent? Meaning not that our role as a parent is to punish them, but our role as a parent is to help guide them, to get them to a place where they are, acting appropriately and behaving, in the right situation and knowing how to be good standing humans and ethical people and moral people and that not even getting into anything with regards to being, an Eved Hashem, anything of that, just as a person.
So I think in the coaching course that I took, I learned something totally awesome. And that is that when our kids are from like 0 till about age 5 or 6, we're in a parenting role of parent as teacher. We're being mechanech our kids. We're teaching them right from wrong. From about age 6 to 12, 13, bar bat mitzvah age, we add another role, parent as administrator. When they are after bar bat mitzvah, we shift into a new role. And this is where, because the kids don't come with an instruction manual, this is where parents, this is where we don't get it, right? That we have to shift into a new role of parent as coach or parent as advisor. We think that we've only done 65% of our job by the time they're 13, 14 years old. The kids think, I'm done. You're fired, Mom. You're fired, Dad. Right? I got it. I got 100%. You're done. You taught me everything. And the truth is, if we all think back to when we were that age, we knew exactly what our parents' expectations were of us. We knew, having been brought up in the home, whether it was a controlling home or not a controlling home, we knew our parents' morals, their ethics, their values, their religious practices, how they viewed money. We knew exactly, if anybody asked you, hey, what do your parents think about this? Their political choices, right? We know from when we grew up, our view of our parents, and our kids know us as well. They know our expectations. So if we don't shift into a new role, into a new parenting role, and realize that the kids are rolling their eyes at us, or they're arguing back at us, or they're saying, you're not listening to me, you don't get it. If we're having power struggles with our kids, most likely there's some controlling going on. And again, we have to ask ourselves, is what I'm going to say or do going to bring me closer or push me farther away? Is it better to be right or to be connected? We parents have a challenge. And the challenge is When the parents change the music, the kids change their dance step. And I think that's what this is all about, that whatever parenting style we're used to, if we are controlling, again, the big picture of controlling, even if it's just one, constantly nagging, but you're already getting feedback from your teen that this isn't working. What you want is to have a healthy, meaningful relationship with your teen. And teens goes up to about age 35 nowadays.
If you're looking for a great way to have some good, clean, kosher fun with your children through the powerful effect of music, look no further, because J Karaoke is here. J Karaoke gives one and all the platform to belt out their favorite tunes from a library of thousands of Jewish songs, hundreds of artists and genres across multiple decades of incredible Jewish music. Personally, I know that I love singing. I love it. I love karaoke, but I was really never able to get into it because it wasn't the Jewish songs. And that's where J Karaoke comes in with their huge selection, from the latest hits to the classics. They even have nursery rhymes for your little ones. And with features like key changes to help you sing, to make you more comfortable as you're singing, and speeding it up or slowing down the song, they have really thought of everything. To enjoy Jewish karaoke your way, all you need to do is head to jkaraoke.com. Choose a subscription that fits for you. And to make it even more fun, you could purchase their state-of-art karaoke kit, which gives you the feeling as if you are today's top singer. You can insert whoever you feel it is. Connect your kit to any device, like it could be a laptop, computer, a tablet, whatever it is, and you plug in your speaker, plug in your J Karaoke microphone, and you sing away. It's as easy as that. That's all it is, and it's really fun. I checked out their website. It really looks amazing. They have an incredible amount of song selection. Anything you want. They got Thank You Hashem. They got Mordechai Shapiro. They really got it all. You can subscribe monthly for just $4.99 a month, yearly for $49.99, and we have a special deal here for you. For any of our listeners, if you use the code JewsNextDoor, DOR, you get an additional 10% off. And if you don't want your children to be using a device with internet, J Karaoke's got you covered. You can download the app onto your desktop. Once you have it up, turn off the internet, let them sing all day long without the internet. Check out J Karaoke today and let the fun begin. There's certain instances where you should be giving your child, let's say, some criticism, and to help them understand what they, so, you know, let's say before the age of 13, is that the right role? And after the age of 13, it's definitely not, or it's never the right role. Like,
I think
how
I'm
does
going
that
to
work
answer
exactly?
that when we move into the next part about what should we do instead, because the answer to this whole issue of control is that in order to make a request of our kids, if we are still controlling, then there's less chance that they are going to oblige our request to them to do this or to do that. When we have a healthy, meaningful relationship, right, then we have much better opportunity for, could you please do this for me, or could you please do this, that for me? If you're constantly in power struggles, it's not going to work. What I was going to say before is this concept WDEP. The W is, what do you want as a parent? You want, amongst other things, a healthy, meaningful, loving relationship with all your kids. The D is, what are you doing? And that could be, I'm nagging a lot, I'm threatening, I'm complaining, I'm criticizing, I'm forcing, whatever the issue might be. The E is the evaluation, is the more I lecture, the more I give mussar, the more I criticize, is it getting me what I want, which is a healthy, good, excellent relationship with my teen? And if the answer is no, it's not working, all the mussar, all the attacking, all the forcing, all the criticizing, it's not working. So the P is for plan. I need to change what I'm doing. I need a new plan. I have to do something different because this way isn't working.
What should one do if they don't know what they're doing is considered controlling?
So the short answer is, what I advise the parents who call me, is we have to give up the control. That's step one. No more criticizing.
No, but what if someone doesn't even know if they're being controlling? Like they just don't know. They're not trying to be controlling. They don't know if they are being
They
controlling.
probably haven't attended many parenting workshops or listened to podcasts, because I think among many rabbanim and therapists that this is the most popular, effective mahalach approach that has been going on for 20 years already. And when I had teenagers and difficult teenagers, and I learned the hard way that this approach, the other approach of controlling, did not work. And so the parents say to me usually, so what should I do? I should just do nothing? And that's not the answer. Yes, give up the controlling. Absolutely, give up the controlling. In fact, if the kids, you're really having a terrible relationship, I'm not going to go into it, but there's room for an apology. When parents have this awareness that they've actually been hurting their kids, when our actions are causing our kids tremendous pain and anger and frustration and power struggles, and it's clear that our behavior, which I'll call the controlling behaviors, is affecting them so negatively. Immediately, when we give up all the controlling, it resuscitates the relationship immediately. So number one is to give up all the controlling behaviors. And so what do we do instead? Do nothing? That's not the answer. Now we want to work on a meaningful relationship. The more we give up direct control through those controlling behaviors, trying to get somebody to change, trying to get somebody to do what we want them to do, to be how we want them to be, the more we gain indirect control through the strength of our relationship. That's what it's all about. Happiness, true happiness, requires a relationship. Pleasure does not. Teens do all kinds of things that give them pleasure because they're hurting. They're really craving a relationship with their parents.
If I could stop you for a second, I'm just curious. Practically speaking, and we'll get back to, I know you're in the middle of a thought. Practically speaking, if a parent is realizing that they are controlling, practically speaking, it's hard for people to just change themselves and say, okay, I'm going to just stop doing all those things. What steps would you recommend for a parent to, say, I'm really putting it?
I think, again, I don't have 3 hours to go into it. When parents really understand how they've been hurting their kid, no parent intentionally wants to hurt their child. And when we realize that inadvertently, because we didn't know any better, we never realized that these, quote, common sense kind of behaviors that we've all, most of all of us have grown up with, how damaging they are and how it's destroying our relationship and causing so many problems. When we take a step back, no parent is going to say, I'm going to continue hurting my kid. Right? When a baby is born and they keep you up for at least 2 weeks crying all night, we would never think of saying, hey, enough already, take them back to the hospital, need a new model. Right? We would never do anything to hurt them. We just love them to pieces. And it's the same neshama, that the same little baby that we held and kissed and hugged, and that's the same neshama, just big size large or extra large, as they become teenagers. So the answer is, how do you connect them, right? If we're talking about giving up all control, almost like quitting cold turkey, right? Because that immediately improves the relation. What we can do is give people information, right? It's raining outside. The garbage is overflowing. Giving information is very different than telling somebody what to do.
Giving them information, how is that going to be enough? Because let's say you say the garbage is overflowing and they're like, okay. So at some point you need to say to them, well, can you?
But if a teenager is running out in the cold winter and it's 40 below, and they're going out in a t-shirt. If you're going to nag them and say, you better take your coat, it's freezing, they don't appreciate that kind of parenting. It's like, hey, I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 14, leave me alone. Stop nagging, stop criticizing. When we say, by the way, the temperature today is 20 degrees and it's pouring outside, there's an umbrella by the front door. You're giving information. And Oshikain Oshalot.
Would you say that that's different? Would you say that's different for a younger child? Meaning at a younger child is when you should be saying to them? A younger child, you're helping them to get dressed, right? You're helping them. So it's very different. So how do you connect? That's the question. How do you connect with your kid? So the answer is, what does everybody want? There was a survey done many, many years ago asking teenagers, what do you need from the adults in your life? The number one answer was not money, and it was not love. The number one answer was to be respected. The second answer was to be listened to and understood. Just listening is not the same as listening and understanding where this child is coming from. To be appreciated, to be accepted. What does that mean? Accepted means I love you no matter what. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you dress, no matter how you look, nothing will ever stop me or prevent me from loving you. That's unconditional love. And unconditional love and acceptance go hand in hand. And it can be challenging. It can be hard. And that's why when we think about that pure little neshama, that week-old baby, this is the same little neshamala who's in a 16 or an 18 or a 22 or a 14-year-old body. And our job is to love this kid unconditionally. So that's what true acceptance is. There's nothing you can say or do that will ever make me stop loving you. Because when a kid feels respected, when they feel listened to and understood, when they feel appreciated and accepted, how do they feel? Right? Before we said they feel angry, they feel pain, they feel hurt, they feel resentment when you're controlling. But when they feel respected and listened to and understood, they feel love and they feel respected and they feel understood and they feel listened to and they feel accepted. What's the impact now on the parent-teen relationship? On a scale of 1 to 10, it's going to be up by an 8, 9, or 10. It's connected, it's strengthened. Can you define that, though? Can you define respect and listening? Meaning, for a child, for a teen, what does it mean to be respected? What does it mean to really be listened to?
Good question. I'm going to try to answer it. Actually, I'm not going to try. I'm going to answer it. It's one of the tools that I'm going to share with you tonight. It's how do you respect? What does respect mean? How do you listen to understand? Because sure, we all understand the word respect, but in this context of a relationship, what does it really mean? So the question is, what is respect? And one of the definitions of respect is to hold someone in high esteem, in high regard. Think highly of someone. Feelings of deep admiration. And by the way, in the definition of respect, there is no mention of earning respect or deserving respect. Right? So who is worthy of respect then? The answer is everyone. All people were created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And therefore everyone, whether it's a 2-year-old to a 99-year-old, everyone, or 100, is worthy of respect. And the best way to teach respect is to show respect. And we communicate respect to others in many different ways. Through our words, through our body language, and through our attentiveness.
What do those mean? Can you give a little more practical examples of the words and the attentiveness?
Because this is one of many tools that parents can use when you give up the controlling. If a parent is controlling and they're using, I have many, many tools that I share. I'm going to share 2 of them tonight. None of these tools will work if a parent is still controlling. And I think that's a very important thing to understand, that there's a better way, a new plan. So the first question for everybody to think about is, how do you like to be respected? Right? We know the definition of respect: to hold in high esteem, have feelings of deep admiration. How do you like to be respected? This is an excellent conversation piece around the Shabbos table or with colleagues at work. And number 2, how can you show respect to others, to your family members, to your relatives, to your friends, to your kids?
It might be different when you're talking about respect with children versus respect with other, let's say, coworkers or whatever it is. Children perceive things differently.
Everybody knows and feels respected, even a 3-year-old. I remember once seeing a family relative at our Shabbos table with a 3-year-old, passed him the platter and said, "Would you like some chicken? Here's the fork. That's what you can take. Would you like some potatoes?" He didn't just push it onto the plate. It was such a respectful interchange between the parent and the child. And when the kid started to take maybe too many, why don't you start with 5 olives? And if you're still hungry, we can have more. I couldn't believe the respectful dialogue that was going on. So let me get into the actual tool here, okay?
I mean, in terms of respect, though, children might perceive different things differently as respect. As you said before, the teens, like the survey, the thing that they wanted the most was to feel the respect. What would translate to a teen as being respect? What would translate to a child as being respect?
There's many, many, many different ways. This is one that I'm going to demonstrate, okay? There's a ton of ways. This is a very unique tool, okay? We're all used to saying, "I'm proud of you," to somebody for something that they did. We say, "I'm so proud of you for telling the truth. I'm so proud of you for listening to me. I'm so proud of you for getting a great mark on your test. I'm so proud of you for not giving up in this challenging situation." When we focus on respect, we're respecting the other person's qualities. So I might say, "I respect your honesty," or "I respect your integrity when you told me the truth. I respect your commitment and your devotion to your family that you're listening to this podcast about relationships." I might say, and I would never use so many words in one sentence, "I respect your diligence, your drive, your determination, your perseverance, and your persistence really paid off."
Why is saying respect better than saying "I'm proud of you"?
So if I said to you, "I am so proud of you for what you're doing tonight," how does it make you feel when I say, "I am so proud of you"? How does that feel?
I'd say thank you. I'm happy that you're
Well,
proud.
who is it about when I say I'm so proud of you? It's all about me. And I've been told by many, many clients that it's very demeaning. Who am I up here to be proud of you down here? We're not equals, right? When I use the word respect, I respect your inner strength and courage to be the best you can be in this difficult situation. I respect your drive and your determination to do this whole parenting workshop series that you put so much time and effort into. Doesn't that sound better than saying "I'm proud of you for what you're doing"?
Right. I guess it depends who it's coming from. I understand what you're saying. Right.
So it has, I'm so proud of you is really overused. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying there's a better way. Right? So we are respecting the quality of the person that's underlying their action by respecting who they are as a person, not what they do. And when we use this, we touch the core of the person. We don't use this every night. One client, well, I'm not finished with the whole tool yet. One client called me up and said, Devorah, I need a new word. I said, what's wrong with respect? She said, they're rolling their eyes. I said, how many times are you using it a day? She goes, oh, around 6 or 7. This is a really precious tool. We want to use it effectively and maybe once a day. And there are different ways to use it. You could text message, a little note, in person. So respect might not be for all situations the most convenient. We're not used to using the word respect, right? Respecting a quality.
Right. You would say there's a maximum to it, though, meaning like you shouldn't overuse it. Like there is an overuse of it.
So I might say, I respect your honesty, and I give the example. I respect your honesty when you told me the truth. I respect your patience for waiting while I was on the phone. I respect your self-control. I respect your courage. I respect your willpower. I respect your ability to make good choices for yourself. I respect your desire to do something. I respect your willingness to come along with us. There's another word you could use. I admire your honesty. I admire your patience. I admire your self-control. Or I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your self-control. I'm in awe of your willpower that you lost 100 pounds. I'm blown away by your courage when you, whatever it is that the person did. I have come up, when I learned this tool, there were 4 words: honesty, patience, courage, and I don't even remember the 4th one. And I spent months building up a list of 100 words, qualities, like thoughtfulness, passion, I respect your restraint, your devotion, your courage, I said before, your empathy, your inner strength, your sensitivity, your care, I said sensitivity, your compassion, your cautiousness, your benevolence, your tenacity, your vitality, your clear thinking, your selflessness. We can always find, even in the most difficult student or kid, teenager, or young adult, something that they've done that we're not proud of the action, but we're looking for the quality underneath what they did. And
what do you mean by that? The quality.
So if they came home, like that example I gave you, that they got 100 on their test, I'm not proud of you for getting 100. What's underneath it?
I understand. But you're not saying if they did something that you're like not proud of, like it's like a bad thing, but you could still find an underlying quality that was good there.
Much better, more effective if the goal is that kids feel respected. When you use the word respect with focusing on the quality underneath the action that they did, it's not about the action. It's about who they are as a person. I once spoke at a Suda. One of my friends was leaving town, and nobody wanted to speak. Sometimes women are a little bit bashful. I said, not a problem. I looked at my list, and I looked through it, and I wrote down 10 words that most typified this amazing, wonderful person. And I wrote them down, and then I thought of examples that went with it, that things that she had done. And then I had my little card in front of me, and I got up to speak, and there were tears all over.
Wow, your list is like the cheat sheet for speakers. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. I don't just send it out either. It's part of my package. It's part of the work that I do, because people really have to be trained in this. I'm not doing justice to this whole tool. A parent could even say, when they're busy doing something and the kid walks into the room, I was just thinking about yesterday when you gave your sister the toy that you wanted, or you did something. That's more of a younger kid. When you took out the trash without my asking you. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. I really appreciate your caring, or I really appreciate your sensitivity. So it's not the focus on the action that the person did, but rather the quality that went into that action. And when people use this tool, it touches the core of their being. It's such a powerful tool that if you're the whole night, I respect your integrity, I respect your consideration, your fairness, your humor, your spirituality, your understanding. It's not so powerful. It's not so effective.
So far, we've said that first thing that parents should be doing is number one is, as opposed to criticizing or telling what to do, they should just be informing. Like, for example, like you said, like the trash is almost full, or the weather, it's cold outside. And then the second thing you said is to be respecting
is giving up all.
Right. Well, first things first, obviously giving up the control. Right. And then replacing the control with this respect, and specifically respecting equality.
Right. So that's one. Again, there are many, many different ways that we can model respect. Right. But this is a phenomenal tool. It's just a Givaldic tool, no matter how you use it. Whether you actually start the sentence with, I respect your honesty. I'm blown away by your flexibility. I know it was hard for you to change your plans. So there's all different kinds of situations that we can use this. So this is one example of how everyone in all situations can rebuild the relationship. Because when there's no more controlling and the kid is not being hurt and they're not angry and they're not frustrated and they're not bitter, and the whole temperature in the house changes. And then we're focusing on respecting their qualities. How do they feel? They feel respected. When you are controlling somebody, you feel very disrespected.
Sure. And then another thing you mentioned before also was about really listening, really listening. What does that mean? What does it mean to really listen to our children?
Okay, so we want to listen actively, to understand with full attention, and we want to be listening from our kids' point of view. Kids want to be listened to and understood. How often does your teen say, or any of your spouse, you're not listening to me. You don't get it. You don't understand. It's about us. It's not about them, right? Our job is to change our listening habits, to understand what they're saying, not just to respond. So many times our teens will say something and we jump in without any thought just to respond. So we want to listen with full attention before passing any judgment. We want to listen for the other person's point of view, and we want to listen for the core or the underlying issues. We want to talk less, listen more, and we want to listen with our lips shut. And being a good listener is another way to communicate respect to our teens and to others. The more they feel heard and understood, the more they're going to share. So there are three.
Is this the concept of active listening, or is this something differently than that?
I am familiar with active listening. That's certainly a good tool. So there are three different types of listening. One is from your point of view, where if I ask you, tell me something meaningful in your life, you can answer the question. Tell me something meaningful.
Davening.
I know what you mean. It's just after Yom Kippur, spending the whole day in shul, especially the minyan I went to was Givaldic, a lot of singing, a lot of ruchnius. So what happened here? I asked you a question, tell me something meaningful, and I hijacked the conversation. I flipped it over to me, and I started talking about my experience. And this is it was like a springboard for me to speak about myself. And that's very common. We don't want to do that with teenagers. Number two, if I said to you the same question, but I'm like the FBI now. Who did you daven with? Where did you go? When, where, why, how? And I'm asking all these, I'm gathering facts. Where do you live? How old are you? Where did you grow up?
Isn't that just showing genuine interest in what
There is
in
a
what
time
they
and a place
responded to?
when we're trying to build does that make you feel respected? When I say, hey, I never met you before. Where do you live? How old are you? Where'd you grow up? What school did you go to? Where'd you daven?
Oh, I mean, if you do it like that, as opposed to a conversation, meaning if it's a conversation where you ask me one question, I respond, and then you're like, oh, and where'd you grow up? And
Right.
I say, oh, I grew up here. And then you respond like.
There's a time and a place for that, but we're trying to develop listening to understand. And so I gave those two examples to bring on the third one. When we ask somebody, we want to listen from their point of view. What is it like to be you? What's behind it? What are the feelings behind what you say? And we're asking kind of social work questions. After all, I am a social worker. Questions that begin with what and how. Tell me more about it. We want to hear their point of view. So I asked you the question before, tell me something meaningful to you. And you said davening. I said, tell me more about it. What gives you that feeling? How long have you felt that special connection? What do you do to enhance that feeling of closeness to Kadosh Baruch Hu when you're davening? And I wouldn't interrupt. I'm listening to understand what you're saying. And at the end of the conversation, hopefully you're going to feel, wow, she really listens, she really understands, she really cares. Right? And I might sum it up and I would say to you, do you think I understand? And you hopefully would say, yeah, you got it. So again, we want to know when our kids come home from school, right? Okay, we all ask, how was your day and what did you eat for lunch? But aside from that, if they start a conversation so angry at somebody, really, I'm so sorry to hear that. Tell me more about it. Would you like to speak about it? And then our answers are more like, yeah, not bombarding.
And you should actually ask them. You should actually ask them, did I understand?
Right? It depends how old. It depends on a whole bunch of things. But the purpose is that we're not gathering facts. We're not the FBI. We're not hijacking the conversation to be about us. That our point is to listen to our kids, to understand what they're saying. Because so many times kids will say to us, you never listen to me. You don't understand. And when we focus on asking questions like how or what or tell me more about it, we're opening up the communication.
So I guess I'm curious, just to shift the conversation slightly, what can a parent do, let's say, to rebuild the relationship? Let's say someone's listening to this right now and being like, oh, I checked off a lot of those boxes. And, I see how those areas are really making a distance between me and my child, hurting the relationship. So what can one do once they've discovered, let's say, that they've been controlling? They're not being as respectful to their child as they should or could be. And obviously, besides for just the fact that to stop the controlling and to start respecting, but what else can a parent do to kind of repair that relationship?
So as I mentioned before, if necessary, in some cases it really is, to own up and apologize. I have a sample letter when I work with parents that if their kid is really hurt and really bitter and angry and very much pain, then, and the parents really understand how, in addition to their child perhaps feeling that they don't fit in and they don't belong, they're not achieving, they're not accomplishing, and that's causing them pain. And they're feeling that even in their own home, they're not feeling accepted. They're not feeling understood. They're not feeling that they're really part of the family. That sometimes an apology, I have a whole nusach that I came up with. And then we want to, the bottom line is that they should feel, number one, they should feel respected, listened to and understood, appreciated and accepted. That there's nothing that you can do or say that will ever make me stop loving you. So in addition to all that, and there's certainly a lot more tools that we don't have the time right now to review, we want to create in the home a simchatic attitude. We want to look away from things. Let small, don't sweat the small stuff. Let things slide. Right?
Right.
So I wanted to bring up a quick story about Yosef Atzadik. Yosef Atzadik could have been one of the original at-risk teams, right? Way back then. His father loved him. He lost his mother when he was a young boy. 10 older brothers who were jealous of him, hated him. But he had a special kesher with his father, Yaakov Avinu, who made him that beautiful Kesonis Pasim. And one day, he goes out to check on the boys, and they see him, and they're jealous, and he winds up, winds up in Mitzrayim, in the Potiphar house. And Mrs. Potiphar, we know from the Psukim, wants to have a relationship with him. And she arranged one day, and she's practically dragging him to the master bedroom, and suddenly he bolts out of the house. What propelled Yosef Atzadik to run out like that and to leave her holding his coat? When we look at Rashi, we all know the famous Rashi. We saw Dinyuko Shalom, the image of his father. And that's really our goal. That throughout our lives, we have the ability to create wonderful memories for our kids, simchadik, wonderful memories. And why did Yosef run out? Because the love he had for his father and his father had for him was so evident that even so many years later, when he was in a very challenging situation with Mrs. Potiphar, he saw his father. And that propelled him to run out to do the right thing because of that kesher. And that's really our avoda, to work on the relationship, because the closer our relationship, the more influence we have on our kids. Right? And that's how we change the music. So the more the household is simchadik, the more we create memories by doing, I'm not going to go into my whole repertoire of fun things that can happen. But if we all think back to when we were kids, we have memories. And some of them are good and some of them are bad. And we have the zchus and the responsibility to create wonderful memories for our kids. And if we're going to be nagging and threatening and criticizing and blaming and punishing, those are the memories that they're going to have. And if we change that, if we change our music and we focus on the relationship, that this is the most important thing to me, to have a relationship with you. I love you no matter what. I love you unconditionally. Then the kids feel respected. They feel listened to. They feel appreciated. They feel accepted. Even if they're not practicing religion the way that we would like. They're not following in our footsteps as we would have liked.
Let's go a little deeper on that in terms of like the religion. Let's say a child's doesn't want to do the things that their parents, want them to. Whatever the religious norms are that their parents want them to. So how does one navigate that, to not let it affect the relationship while trying to parent their child in a certain way? Obviously, I'm not saying to control their child, but to try to set certain standards for their family and for their home. Is there any room for that? If yes, like how, in what way?
So I think when we're talking about teenagers, as I mentioned before, we've done a good job of modeling our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. When a kid grows up seeing their mother davening, the father gets up for minyan, the way they have Shabbos, the way they conduct their Shabbos table, right? They get messages. And when it's leibedik, simchadik, special, meaningful, and the house is filled with a warmth and a love, then they feel it's loved and accepted, and we hope they'll follow in the footsteps. If, however, there are other issues going on, and I'm not going to get into all the other issues, but there is no room for nagging and threatening regarding religion. that reminding a 15-year-old, did you put on tefillin? Where's your tefillin? I didn't see you put on tefillin. Or reminding a daughter about her sneeze button or her skirt length. Is what I'm going to say or do going to bring me closer or push me farther away? And I love you no matter what really means that. I love you no matter what you wear. And I have seen countless families who are having a wonderful time with their kid. I was recently at a bar mitzvah, and there was one son without a yarmulke. But you could see the ahava between the mother, the father, and the son without the yarmulke. They were hugging him and holding him, treating him exactly the same as the other kids in the family. A beautiful relationship, and that's what our focus is. If they had told him, you can't come unless you put on the yarmulke, what is he going to do?
Obviously.
It's going to cost him.
Right. And what did that say about it's pushing the relationship away?
So I think, one of my jokes to all the parents is that you are not your kid's religious policeman. And I'll give you my address and you can send me your badge, because this isn't about religion. This is about loving our kids no matter what, accepting them as they are.
That's a great point. I'm curious, I know we don't have time to get into them now, and we're going to wrap up, but I'm just curious, when you say that there are other tools, besides for let's say the respect tool and the listening tool that you mentioned, are those other tools that are tools to respecting, or these are other tools to helping to building a relationship?
So the answer is yes, all the above. That all the tools are different ways. There's a whole bunch of different ways to show and demonstrate respect to our kids. And the key thing is, the question that I posed in the beginning, how do you like to be respected? Because if that's the number one thing that teenagers want is to be respected, then the respect tool, using the word respect and focusing on their qualities, listening to understand, not jumping with an answer, but listening to really understand. Tell me more. What was that like for you? Right? And how do you make a request? I have a request. My request is whatever it is. That's a whole other tool. There's many other, semantic, I guess, different things that we can do. Having a simchadik attitude in the house is also a way of having a respectful house.
Sure. Do you have any final message that you have on this topic, or that you want to share with the parents listening?
So I think there's a few lines that I came up with. It's called the family mantra. Family is about being there to help and support and respect each other. It means that we can love and count on each other. It doesn't mean that we have to share or agree on lifestyles, values, hopes, dreams, religious beliefs, or politics. We should honor each other's opinions and expressions. And of course, this has to be backed up with our behaviors, spoken actions, the vibes we give up that match this mantra. And I think that's really where it's all at, that we're all a family here to love and help and support each other and respect each other, regardless of our religious beliefs, regardless of our political beliefs, hopes and dreams, honoring each other and respecting each other's opinions and expressions.
So true. So true. Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. So much wisdom here. So many amazing nuggets. And as anyone listening heard, like, so much more to give. And, as I said, I'll be putting your information in the show notes so anyone could reach out and learn more from you. And really, again, a major thank you for taking the time to talk about raising the Jews next door.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was nice to finally meet you.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this third episode on building a relationship with one's child. I hope that you were able to gain as much on this topic of intervention as I did. I found it so helpful to hear a clear and coherent definition of control with such specific examples and concrete strategies or tools to fix those behaviors. I'd really love, as always, to hear any comments, any feedback, or questions you may have. Visit our website to email us at jenolif.org or call into our new hotline at 833-737-1293 to be featured on a future podcast where you can ask any parenting question you have. You can ask a question on this podcast or really on anything. Leave your name, your number, and your question, and don't worry, we will be making it anonymous. Make sure to follow us. Our new OU Parenting Podcast on Instagram at the Parenting the Jews Next Door, and on Twitter, follow me at Yair Menschel for parenting tips, quotes, funny and relevant content. We look forward to continuing this series next week as we wrap up the series, where I will be going through the various things that we've learned in each of the episodes and applying them to real life scenarios to help us concretize what we've learned and to help us in our mission of moving the needle in parenting and raising passionate and committed children by creating great relationships with our children. Join us again next week as we work together to raise the Jews next door.